I'm your co-host, Quentin Tarantino. So our first movie that we're going to be discussing, yes, in this episode is Paddy Chayefsky and Arthur Hiller's The Hospital. I saw this movie like a couple times when it came out at the theaters. It was kind of sold to me, but my dad's, that's sort of like MASH, just not in the war. And I watched it, and it was sort of like MASH, except not in the war. And even though I think 75% of this movie just operated way above my head, I couldn't have understood anything. Well, I think when George C. Scott's talking about impotency, I don't even think I knew what impotency was, as a 10-year-old in 71, however old. But I still thought it was really funny. I still really, really liked it. And I thought George C. Scott was fucking amazing, even though I didn't understand what he was talking about or couldn't even understand what Paddy Chayefsky was talking about. And I was still mesmerized. But I hadn't seen it in quite a long while. I brought it up to Roger and realized he hadn't seen it at all. And I thought it was time that we threw a really great writer into the mix of our show, which I don't think we had good writers, but I think this is our first really great writer that we've thrown into the mix of the show. I wanted to do that. And I wanted to, because we like George C. Scott so much, and we've enjoyed watching his performances on the show this season so much, that I wanted him to kind of finally meet Rod Steiger's status. I just thought The Hospital was just fantastic. It knocked me out. I've seen it before, but watching it with you, it was really, really special. And I actually think George C. Scott gives one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. Not just, it's just one of the best performances I've ever seen. On one hand, even though I didn't understand what he was talking about, I think I understood that as a little boy. But now, watching it as an older man, I almost feel that there was a quote once that most men end their lives in anguish. And I think that actually is true. I think most men do end their lives in anguish. And I think there's something to George C. Scott's character and to his id that he reveals that once you get older, that is just kind of devastating. That I see something of myself in him at this age. All right. And it's none of the high points. It's just that but there is an anguish there. There is an anguish there that I wouldn't have related to at any other time in my life. But now I'm at the right age that I think it's one of the best characters I've ever seen in my life. And I think it's one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. Well, we need to describe this a little bit, especially for me to give my take on it, is Scott is so perfect in this movie. And this is not just me keep throwing platitudes, but it's like the costume he wears in the film, the checkered shirt and the kind of soiled tie a little bit that he wears throughout the whole film. Everything seems perfect about that. Yeah, it's perfect. All right. Perfect. The grease in his hair seems perfect. The mixture of dark and gray in his hair. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. He just he's the same guy, but with a coat of paint on him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
He just watched the sleep out of his eyes.
Yeah.
Or he threw some cold water in his face and he actually woke up for a fucking second. In the film, he's going through a terrible divorce from a terrible marriage. He's not the administrator. He's that, I guess he's the head doctor. But the hospital is becoming a Byzantine farce, all right, of what a hospital should be. Yeah, well, he does call it a Roman farce at a certain point. He calls it a Roman farce on a terrible Gothic horror show. And, the whole thing in the hospital is like, people come in for minor situation and then this weird thing happens and this weird neglect thing happens and then somebody reads something wrong and the next thing you know, the guy's dead. Yeah. 5 days later, the guy's dead. That's the part that's actually played the most realistically. Those were Byzantine things that happen. A guy comes in for a simple this, and then 3 days later, he's in a coma because of neglect, not reading shit right. The bureaucracy runs it. Yeah. All right. So when the bureaucracy is wrong, it doesn't know it's wrong because there's not a human being to write it. All right. So the thing is, so he carries all this around. He's suicidal. All right. He's not only reeling from the divorce, he's reeling from the 20 years of the bad marriage.
Yeah.
His estrangement from his children. Everything kind of comes down on him. All right. And then he's realizing this ridiculous situations that are happening in the hospital that just seem like Grand Guignol farce. And so then he's sitting in his office and he's contemplating suicide. All right. He has met Dinah Rigg's character earlier on because her dad is in a coma that he shouldn't be in the hospital, and she wants to take him out. And he sees her talking with the doctor, and he even says, like, who's that? And they go, oh, well, that's this missionary who works with the Apaches, who that thing happened. Then there's an Apache medicine man there who's doing a special dance for his father, and like George C. Scott has to give them the okay to do it. All right. So he talks to Diana Rigg a little bit there, gets a sense of her, and gives her the okay. And then he has a small talk with her in her office, and then she leaves, and then he contemplates killing himself right then and there. All right. He just inexplicably walks back into the office and goes, hey, what are you doing? All right. She thinks he's getting high. And they proceed to have this big conversation that goes on and on. And he's getting drunker and drunker and drunker and drunker until finally, all right, in a vodka-fueled drunken rage, he ravishes her, like rips her clothes off, forces himself on her, and actually proves that he's not impotent. All right. He's absolutely a volcano. All right. Also, Paddy Chayefsky is a volcano. All right. This entire movie has been written to this scene. This is the scene where it will all erupt, both literary wise and drama wise, and George C. Scott wise, and bureaucracy wise. Yeah. All right. What Paddy Chayefsky is doing here, and what they're doing as far as even telling the story, it's not about should somebody do this, should somebody not do this. This is all allegorical. It's an allegorical expression of lust and manhood that happens. It's a literary thing, ultimately. Yeah. All right. Hiller was a great old school director. Now, the thing about it is great old school studio directors are assigned all kinds of movies. And so, look, when he does Nightwing, it's not in the same level as when he does the Hospital. Yeah. He's a director who knows how to deal with writer's material. Yeah. He knows how to take writer's material, heavily written material, and then dramatize it and bring the best out of it. And he does it again with The Hospital. He's the guy that you bring in to do these terrific writers and figure out how to bring the best out of them, how to bring the best out of the actors, how to get the best out of the dialogue, and how to get the best drama or comedy out of a scene, how to put it on its feet dramatically. Oh no, I would imagine that, you know, if a normal long rehearsal for a movie is 2 weeks, then I would imagine that The Hospital was probably 4 weeks rehearsal. And consequently, in The Hospital, he has long George C. Scott monologues delivered without any cuts whatsoever. And not just monologues, entire dialogue-driven scenes. And he goes out of the way, as crazy as and absurd as the movie is, to really ground The Hospital in a recognizable chaos. Okay, here's the thing, though. I think there is a difference between the first half of the movie and the second half of the movie. And the first half of the movie is the realistic part of the film. And then it starts spinning off its axis. And as crazy and as hysterical as the movie is at the beginning, but look, I have an issue with the film that actually is less an issue and more of a point of departure to talk about the film. Yeah. No, that is what it is. That's like complaining that there's too many one-liners in Neil Simon. Well, that's who the fuck he is. Yeah. That's like saying Tennessee Williams is too gothic. Well, then what the fuck are you going to do? All right, don't watch Sweet Bird of Youth.